this video, I'm going to talk about Ha Giang and the north of Vietnam. Everything you need to know, basically. Let's begin. The north of Vietnam is split into three regions: the northeast, Ha Giang, and the northwest. A very loose idea, each region is roughly 5 to 7 days of driving. Most people will just do Ha Giang, which takes around 1 day or 1.5 days to get there. Same for the way back, and then 3 to 5 days in the actual loop. I just want to throw it out there at the start of this video that Ha Giang is not the best place in Vietnam to be riding a motorbike. It is good, but not the best. The northwest is actually the best, in my opinion. But it will take a bit of deep diving to explain why. So back to the general outline of the regions. It is pretty common to connect Ha Giang to the northeast for those of you with a bit more time. And that will include Ban Yok Waterfall and other nice destinations such as Ba Be Lake and Cat Ba Island. The northwest, if coming from Ha Giang, needs to be considered very carefully. The northwest is where Sapa is. The thing is that it takes around 1 full day of average driving to get from Ha Giang to Sapa. And Sapa is a tourist town anyway, a bit of a trap really. I don't personally recommend it. So a mistake a lot of people make is committing from Ha Giang to Sapa over an average day, seeing the tourist central of Sapa, then having another average day from Sapa back to Hanoi. I think this needs very careful consideration, and my advice with the northwest, specifically Sapa, is to only go there if you actually have time to commit properly into the best regions of the northwest, which will be discussed later in this video. There is one more region we haven't really talked about, and that is because it's hard to explain on a map. So we have the northeast, Ha Giang, the northwest, and now let's throw in the north-southwest. Get your heads around that one. So this is basically Mai Chau, Phu Long, Ta Sur, Mukon Chai, and you could also throw Ninh Binh into that region, I suppose. And this, frankly, is the best region in the country to be driving on a motorbike. But before that, let's explain Ha Giang, because that is what everyone is here for on this video. A quick plug here. We don't have an office in Ha Giang, but we'd use trucks to deliver the bikes there, or we can collect bikes from your hotel in Ha Giang. So it's a pretty seamless system at this point that we have. And this is why, really, we don't bother with an office there. The only real catch is that we still require you to do the paperwork and briefing in Hanoi first. But after that is done, you're free to find your own way to Ha Giang, sleeper buses and all that. I personally use those limousine services, leave Hanoi around 3 p.m. and arrive roughly 8 p.m. Personally, there's no need for all the overnight bus stuff. Ha Giang is beautiful, strikingly beautiful. The kind of beauty that you could say is a once-in-a-lifetime view or opportunity. There are a few problems with the Ha Giang area though. It is actually a very small region in terms of motorbiking. The beer-drinking backpacker tours take around 2 to 3 days to complete the loop, going along in party spirit on the back of motorbikes. My recent trip on the CB350 had me, let's say, officially into the Ha Giang Loop by about 12 p.m. lunchtime. I got stuck in the morning trying to do the bamboo ferry on a road bike, and that took me some time, so I got there by 12. Anyway, I had completed what I would call basically all of the Ha Giang Loop by 6 p.m. that very same day, meaning for me, Ha Giang as a package is about a 6-hour drive. This is not normal, of course, to drive around here at that kind of pace, but I think it emphasizes that this loop is really tiny in reality. And the problem is that it is becoming like the Chiang Mai Loop in Thailand, that only people know Ha Giang for motorbikes. And this is causing people to do very short trips and saying that they have motorbiked Vietnam, but you didn't. In the good old days, motorbiking Vietnam was south to north over roughly a month. And this, today, is being lost and forgotten, which I think is a bit of a shame. So the second major issue with Ha Giang is the police. Now I want to put this out there right now, that the police are probably doing a good thing here. Ha Giang wasn't a thing before COVID, For some reason, post-COVID, it just exploded on the tourism market. What we had now was thousands and thousands of inexperienced riders doing fairly gnarly mountain roads on automatic scooters. Yes, they would have been driving off cliff edges, most likely fairly regularly. The news doesn't report on this kind of thing. So Vietnam came down on this like a ton of bricks. It's gone through phases, but today, basically, you will get stopped by the police and fined at least 3 million dong, around 120 US dollars. Think of it like an entrance fee. And the police even have a ticket system where once you have been stopped, you can pass through other checkpoints using a receipt. I want to be clear, this sort of police issue doesn't exist anywhere else in Vietnam. It is purely a Ha Giang thing. Anyway, if you are driving by the book and have a real license and an IDP, then you are fine. But it should be noted, this is pretty much the only region that will actually pick up on the 1948 versus 1968 IDP issue as well. You can see my other videos that explains about that. But those of you that don't have a license or the correct IDP, you will be paying at least 3 million dong for the privilege of entering this region on your own bike. This has forced, and for the good I think, all these beer drinking backpackers onto the back of motorbike tours. They're called Easy Rider tours in Vietnam. It is a much safer and logical way to be dealing with the popularity of this area. So this brings us on to the third issue in Ha Giang. I rode it in low season, when there shouldn't be many tourists knocking around. But in my 6-hour drive, I kid you not, I saw over 1,000 tourists on the back of bikes. I can't even imagine what this place would be like in high season. I don't even think it has the infrastructure to deal with this kind of demand yet. The explosion in fame of Ha Giang is beyond real, and it's a very interesting phenomenon to watch as it happens. Disastrous for my business really, because I don't get involved in the cheaply run tours. And to make things worse, there is not a single viewpoint that doesn't have a coffee shop built on it. And the really good viewpoints can have hundreds and hundreds of backpackers with wife beaters on or elephant pants and all that. And look, I got nothing against it. We were all young once. But for your hardened motorbike adventurer, it's not exactly what you came to see. There is no other place in Vietnam where you can't stop on the side of a road to take a waz with a nice view. Ha Giang, you must pull up into a coffee shop. There is literally no other choice. And the one time I did stop, a nice young chap came over and played the flute to me. Good skills he had, but it just wasn't the vibe that I was going for. So that's Ha Giang. I think you get the idea. So that up there is the coffee shop where you see pictures of thousands of tourists sort of stuck at the top. And it's the same today. And the view is spectacular. I've stopped in a not good spot, but from that angle up there, beautiful. Anyway, I'm not stopping with that many people around. No way. Pretty cool. Now let's touch the northeast briefly, before talking about the northwest. The northeast is probably the most casual area of the north. You can do some waterfalls, some caves, see some nice local life, all that kind of thing. But it isn't like jaw-dropping beauty. It's a nice casual sort of motorbike trip. I've always loved Ban Yok Waterfall in particular. I love the cave that you can drive through, and the connecting roads from the northeast to Ha Giang are amazing. We saved the best to last in this video, which is the northwest in my opinion. And I would argue this region is prettier than Ha Giang. And if you want to see beauty that is merged with everyday farming life, rice paddies for example, then this is the place. The Phu Long, Mai Chau area, lots of waterfalls, that kind of thing. And as we progress north a bit, we end up in Ta Sua with the dinosaur backbone, and then to my favourite place in Vietnam, and it pains me to promote a secret like this, but Tram Tao and its hot springs. You don't need to go there, just leave that for me and my tours. Then you can continue to Mukon Chai, round up to Sapa, and even Et or Bac Ha if you wish. Et being what I consider to be the prettiest village in the entire country. All gorgeous stuff. So what's the downside here? Well, the roads are pretty rough, splattered with clay, which is unbelievably slippery and unpredictable. And most of you ADV, BMW, big bike riders will very much struggle, even on a thing like a CB500X. I advise you follow my advice and hit up the XR150 or WR155. And even then you might struggle a bit. It's just not big bike territory. But don't get me wrong, you can absolutely do it on a CB500. It's just 150 territory in my opinion. Take that advice or not. Driving difficulty is always relative as well, and to some people the Northwest is road, but for a lot of people the Northwest can be considered as off-road. The big killer in Vietnam though is clay. Clay is fine in the dry, but it is ice in the wet, and this just doesn't come across in any videos. I recommend you book an off-road lesson in Hanoi to get some basics in off-road. It's very much going to help you when you hit that clay. And unfortunately, really, it always rains, especially in a place like Ta Sua. It is such a beautiful place, but so depressing and run down at the same time. But isn't this the kind of thing and story we want to see when we're on a motorbike? A place you love, but also hate at the same time? I'm all for that kind of thing. The rest of the Northwest, I hate to use the corny term, but it is the real Vietnam. This is motorbiking Vietnam. Go for it. Quickly, let's talk about the weather. October is prime time in the north. This is when the rice paddies turn to golden yellows, and to simplify everything, the closer you are to October, the better. As November creeps round into December, January, February, the north can be very cold, even snowing. And technically, it is dry season, but if you get hit in the rain in those temperatures, it won't be funny. As sort of March, April, May, this kind of thing rolls around, it is technically rainy season, but also warmer. I tend to drive the north at these times, around April. It's also worth noting that the weather is very localized, and I have driven the north many times now and never spent an entire trip in the rain. I've never spent an entire trip in the dry either, because I move through regions quickly and the weather changes as I go. But of course, maybe I'm lucky, maybe you're unlucky, but overall though, it is amazingly unpredictable. And I'm all for planning, but my personal opinion is that if you are asking about the weather, then you are most likely the wrong kind of person to be in this region. It's perfectly possible to go there in prime time and get hit with clouds and rain and to see nothing at all. It's one of those life gambles, take it or leave it. My advice to people worried about the weather is just do Ho Chi Minh to Da Nang, which is amazing and way more consistent. To wrap this video up, let's talk a little bit about the route. Everybody wants a day-by-day itinerary. Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi, there is a set tourist destination at the end of each day, and not much in between. Drive fast, drive slow, stop a lot, don't stop, you end up basically in the same place at the end of each day. The north, however, is full of homestays. There aren't really any set tourist destinations. So a fast traveller will end up in a different place to the slow traveller. And conditions, especially rain, which impacts the clay, will also massively affect how far you can drive each day. All you really need to know is that there is no place in the north that is out of a one-day massive drive back to Hanoi. So wherever you are, you can get back to the big city pretty quickly. I'm not going to go into a day-by-day route summaries in this video, but our blog articles are pretty close to these day-by-day itineraries these days. You should note we have several different versions of each region, especially the Northwest, and this is due to who wrote the article. Is it me, or is it one of the ticket guides? We all have slightly different takes on these regions, and that's okay. So read them all and see where you land. Thanks for watching.